I'm going to call the meeting to order this evening. If you will please turn off or silence your phones or other devices that might interrupt our meeting. This evening, our invocation is going to be by Jamie Day. He's the pastor at Faith Baptist Church. If everyone will please rise.
Thank you, Mayor. Let's all pray together. Kind and gracious Heavenly Father, you alone are worthy of our worship and our praise. You are all powerful and all knowing and ever present. And we bow our knees to your sovereign name. Lord, we confess to you this day that we have all fallen short of your glory. For your word tells us that all have sinned and there is not one righteous, no, not one. So, Lord, we humbly ask for your forgiveness. Your word tells us that if my people who are called by my name humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear from heaven and will forgive their sin and heal their land. And so we do that today, Lord. We humbly ask you for your mercy and your grace. Father, heal this land. We confess to you that we owe our very existence to you, for you created all that exists from nothing by simply speaking it into existence. And you, Lord, uphold us by your power. Indeed, you grant to us even our very next breath. And so we worship you. And now, Lord Jesus, as these men and women have gathered to discuss these weighty issues concerning this city, we humbly ask that your will be done. Lord Jesus, we ask that you move in such a way that personal agendas will decrease and your sovereign will increase. Lead these men and women and guide them into all truth and enable them to make good and wise decisions that will benefit the people and not their own personal desires. Lord, in your word, you command us that every person be subject to governing authorities. Indeed, all governing authorities derive their authority from you, for all governing authorities that exist have been instituted by you. And so, Lord, we ask that you grant mercy and grace and wisdom for these men and women to govern justly in order to bring glory and honor to your name. Lord, most of all, you are the Prince of Peace. So Lord, we ask you that you bring peace to this room, to this building, to this city, to this county, to this state, to this nation, and Lord, to this world. Now to him who is able to keep us from stumbling, who is able to present us blameless before the presence of his glory with great joy, the only God, our Savior, through Jesus Christ our Lord, be glory and majesty, dominion and authority before all time and now and forever. Amen.
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 Thank you. This evening, we're going to have Jamie Day's son, one of his sons who is attending, Madison Day, to come up and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Madison, thank you for volunteering.
Thank you, Mayor.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you for that. Appreciate it. Ken, employee recognitions?
Yes, Mayor and council members, one of the most enjoyable parts of our city council meetings over the last 5 or 6 years is the recognition of employees. And during the last 5 or 6 years, I've had an opportunity to recognize dozens of our employees for their outstanding service to the city. And it's really been a joy to announce these recognitions. This evening, I have one recognition, and this is an outcome of our city manager's coffee last week. We had a good crowd over at the social house. And during the coffee, we had a lady speak about the positive experience she got working with our city secretary on the mail-in ballots this year. This is an individual who was going to be out of town on election day, had never voted mail-in ballot. And this year, the mail-in ballots are a lot more complex than they have in the past. It's difficult to understand. And she was very complimentary of Shelley and spending some real quality time with her to lead her through the whole process and help her understand the mail-in voting process. So again, this is another example of an employee who has gone above and beyond to sit down and work with one of our citizens and help them understand how to vote and understand the democratic process. So we want to recognize Shelley this evening for that positive comment we got at the city manager's coffee last week. So thank you, Shelley.
Thank you, Shelley. Thank you very much. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, under 5 public comments on the agenda, no one has signed up and there were no written comments that I received today. So we'll move on to item 6, consent agenda item. The following items may be acted upon in a single motion. No separate discussion or action on any of these items will be held unless pulled at the request of a member of city council. A, consider the approval of city council minutes for April 4, 2022 regular meeting, I, February 10th, 2022 work session meeting. Council's desire to.
Mayor and council, I will recuse from this item because item 2 is approval of the work session. It involved the STR ordinance. And so I will recuse and leave the room for that discussion.
Thank you. Do any of these items need to be pulled? Okay, we're going to be pulling April 4th. I'll entertain a motion then to accept the I, February 10th, 2022 work session. We have motion to accept I, motion by Tom, second by Jerry. Any further discussion? There is none. Motion carry. Need a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, we're gonna pull April 4, 2022 regular meeting. Tom?
Okay, you look in your packet. Tom Marshall, city resident, spoke regarding the city's need for a fiscal.
You first.
So, there must be something, what does that mean? Is there something missing there?
No, he did speak about a fiscal, but.
I believe his comments were that the city council and other folks need to take a good hard look and get an examination of their physical.
I wrote down in my notes, city needs a physical.
Yeah,
That it?
That's it.
Okay, I will then withdraw that. That's what he said, and I guess that's what he meant.
okay.
Then make a motion.
Okay, we'll take a motion to accept
I move to
the,
accept the April 4th minutes as presented.
have a
Second.
motion by Tom, second by Bobby. Any further discussion? There is none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? There is none. Motion carries. Okay, we're going to move item 8A up here, which is consider approval of the 2022, 2021, 2022 audit financial statement of the independent auditor's report. Laura, I believe you're going to introduce the lady's going to present this, correct?
Yes, I will. The accounting firm of ABIP has performed an audit of the city's annual financial statements for the fiscal year ended September 30th, 2021. Financial statements are the responsibility of the city's administration. The auditor's responsibility is to express an opinion on the financial results presented based on their audit. At tonight's meeting, our auditing firm will present a summary report of the annual financial statements for the period ending September 30th, 2021. Janet Pittman, CPA with ABIP, will present an overview of the city's financials.
Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. Good evening. Thank you for having me here this evening to go over the results of your 2021 fiscal year audit. You have 2 documents sitting in front of you. One is the bound document and the other is a letter. And I'm going to briefly go over the letter first and then we'll go through the financials. So the letter contains basic information that we are required to report to you, the governing body of the city. So briefly, I will go through it. So we are required to tell you where the significant accounting policies are for your financials, and they are in Note 1 in the bound document. You did not adopt any new financial accounting policies during this current fiscal year. You also have in your financial statement several estimates that are listed there in that paragraph. Most of them relate to the net pension liability. Again, we are required to tell you about these estimates because they can change because they are estimates. So we didn't have any difficulties in preparing and performing our audit. There were very few minor audit adjustments that we found as a result of our audit. The city has corrected those. They were not material, which means we can tell you that the financials that you're getting throughout the year to make your financial decisions are accurate, and you can continue to make your decisions based on those audited those numbers. We did not have any disagreements with management. We have received management representation stating that we did receive everything that we required to do our audit. As far as we know, management did not have any other consultations with other accountants in court shopping for a second opinion on an accounting issue. And then as a result of our audit, we are required to audit your investment policy and to make sure that it's in accordance with the Public Funds Investment Act. And we did find that the city has complied with that. Also, as part of our audit, we do a risk assessment, which is looking at your segregation of duties and your internal controls over your major processes, such as cash disbursements and payroll, cash receipts, money that's coming in across the various departments in the city. If we had any issues or comments to tell you about on your internal controls, they would be in this letter. But we are pleased to report that your segregation of duties and internal controls are operating efficiently and effectively. So if no one has any questions on the letter, I'll go into the bound document. Our audit opinion is on page 1. It is what we call an unmodified opinion. It's the highest level of assurance that you can receive from your auditors. And what it basically means is your financial statements are presented in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles, and we have not made any modifications to your statements. On page 3 is your management discussion and analysis. It's a high-level comparison from this year versus last year. I wasn't going to go over it in detail just because I think it's more beneficial to look at the individual funds that you have. But I did want to highlight one area on page 7 under capital assets. It shows your major capital asset additions during the current year. You can see it was a little over $10 million. Most of it was occurring in the water fund, new water mains and pump stations and such. Now we'll turn to page 16. These are your governmental funds, the general fund, the capital projects, and the debt service fund. Your general fund is your main operating fund for the city. The most important number on that page is the unassigned fund balance, which is a little over $13 million, $13.9 million actually, which represents 9 months of operating expenses. The city has a financial policy to maintain 25% of your operating expenditures in this unassigned category. This represents 78%. So the city has a very healthy general fund balance meant to be spent on ongoing operations. If you turn to page 18, this is the statement of revenues and expenditures and changes in fund balance. And you can see down at the bottom, the net change in fund balance in your general fund was $4.8 million. Most of that occurred because of the increase in your sales tax. Last year, your sales tax was 6.3 million. This year was right at 8 million, 7.96. Also, you had an increase in your hotel occupancy taxes. And your total expenditures this year were right at $18 million. Last year, they were 17.5. So nice increase in your revenues while you held your expenditures very steady, which resulted in the $4.8 million increase in the general fund balance. Now I'm going to turn to page 24 and 25 and look at your enterprise funds, your business type activities, where your electric, water, your golf, landfill, EMS, and drainage funds are. Looking down at the bottom of the page, changes in net position. The water and the golf fund were the only ones with a positive increase in their fund balance this year and their net position this year. Most of that is due to the net pension liability that increased from $10 million to $15 million, and we allocated those expenses across all the funds, but it did cause a decrease in your change in net position. The change in the net position for the electric fund was compounded by the winter storm. So you had a little, almost $1 million, no, it was a little over $1 million increase in your power that you had to purchase during February of last year. I'm going to go all the way to page 65 now. We'll look at your budget to actual. The city is required to report both their original budget and their final amended budget compared to your actual revenues and expenditures. So your final revenue budget, you can see, was $18.3 million. You actually brought in $21.6 million, so you had a positive variance of $3.3 million. Again, most of that was in the sales tax and hotel occupancy. As far as the expenditures, we had the final budget of $19.4 million. You actually spent right at $18 million, so you had a positive variance of $1.4 million in that category. So nice increase to your fund balance and good budgeting job. That concludes my presentation. I would be glad to take any questions that anyone has.
Kathy, questions? Tom?
So this would indicate that the accounting department of the city of Fredericksburg is competent?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
And we do appreciate all the help that they got us in getting everything we needed to do our audit. We get a lot of documents from.
Thank you. Bobby?
No questions.
Jerry?
No questions.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Mayor and Council, I
sorry.
wanted to commend Laura and her staff. Krista's here from Finance Department, but both of them played a key role in the financial report that you see presented tonight. They worked very closely with the auditors, lots of records that they had to pull during the auditing process, so put in a lot of additional hours to prepare the document that you have before you this evening. Second thing is, as was reported, we've had a healthy increase in our fund balance in the general fund. What Laura has recommended is that we create a capital improvement fund to move some of the excess sales tax revenues into a special fund dedicated to capital improvements in the future. The council would then have the ability to allocate money out of that fund as you see needed for capital improvement projects such as major street projects, building projects, major park improvements, and that kind of those kind of capital improvements. So at the next meeting on May 2nd, I think Laura's going to bring forward a recommendation on creation of this fund. And I think we decided today it would be a committed fund. That's the definition of the type of fund. And so that will be on your agenda for your next meeting to consider taking some of the excess money and instead of using that for general operating expenses, establish a capital improvement money. And we've got a lot of, as you know, Clinton and his staff will be presenting the capital improvement plan, a 5-year plan here in the next month or two. And you'll see we've got a lot of capital improvement needs in our community, and this will start building up a savings account to pay for some of those needs.
Mayor, I've got a question with that. So in the capital improvement plan, the city could use that money to, not to reduce current bonded indebtedness, but to be able to maybe reduce the amount of a bond that if we were going out to the public.
Yes, sir. An example of that is the public safety building. You could buy down the amount that you would have to finance by using some of those, some of that money. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments from staff or council? If not, we'll go to consider the approval of the FY 2021-2022 financial audit. Entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve.
Have a motion by
Second.
Bobby, second by Jerry. Any further discussion? There being none, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed, there is none. Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to 7A, consider the approval of ordinance 2022-20, amending Appendix A of the fee schedule of the court ordinance to establish a fee to defray costs of collecting delinquent multiple court fines, fees, court costs, and other debts pursuant to Article 103.0031 of the Texas Code of Criminal Procedure. Council may waive the second reading. Kent?
Mayor and council, we do have with us this evening Judge Becker, municipal court judge. And over the last month or two, she's visited with city staff about the need to retain a collection agency to collect delinquent municipal court fees. And so on your agenda tonight is the contract to hire Purdue, Brandon, Fielder, Collins, and Mott. And we do have a representative of the firm here when we get to that agenda item. But this ordinance would basically pass along the fees, the collection fees to the individuals that are delinquent on their accounts. So it'd be basically our ability to pass through the 30% charge that would be assessed to these individuals as part of their fines, and we would be able to offset our costs for the collection services. So Judge Becker, did you want to say anything on it?
Come on.
And please introduce yourself. Not all of these fine folks have met you professionally yet.
My name is Shelley Becker. I'm the municipal court judge. In choosing Purdue as the firm, I was really impressed with their ethics. And a lot of different courts over Texas do use Purdue specifically because they have such an outstanding reputation in the ethical manner in which they go about getting these debts taken care of. I know in our court, we have roughly a little over 400 KPS Pro fine warrants. Those warrants are issued after a judgment is entered and then that particular person doesn't pay. And so that becomes the debt. Rather than moving forward with all of these different warrants, it's a much better idea, I think, to use a debt collection firm where we control the language of the letter to make sure that the proper information is going out to people, making sure it complies with the law, making sure they understand that they do have different alternatives if they cannot pay, make sure they know they can have community service hours, they can have an indigency hearing. I think it's important to consider a person's financial circumstances when you're going about debt collecting. So, and obviously we don't have the staff, we don't have the resources, we don't have the means to hunt down people. So I'm really impressed with Purdue. I think they'll do an outstanding job for us. The cost, the 30% does get passed on to the defendant. It is not a cost that's incurred by the city. Also, the money comes directly to the court. It doesn't go through the law firm. Once people receive that initial notice, all further contact is through the court.
Thank you. Okay. Tom?
Judge, I have a question. What's the current outstanding court debt?
With regard to the KPS Pro fine, it's about $150,000. If you take into account all cases where people have not made an appearance, there's not a judgment, they've just received their citation and then no plea's been entered, there hasn't been a judgment, you're looking at about $500,000 on that one.
Okay. I think the thing that was important for me to hear was it's going to help you catch up and not have to deal with the this issue?
Yeah, very much so.
Just to get you what, the 5,000 cases instead of 8,000?
Yeah, it'd be nice. Yeah.
Okay,
It certainly helps our workload and it helps ensure that people are being responsible and taking care of what they need to take care of.
very good. Any other questions, Council?
Mayor, I move to approve, ordinance 2022-20, amending, Appendix A, fee schedule of Code of Ordinance to establish a fee to defray cost of collecting delinquent municipal court fees.
We have a motion by Don,
Second.
second by Jerry. Any further discussion?
Does that include waiving the second reading or not?
That does include
We
waiving.
didn't see.
Second that.
Okay. Any further discussion? There being none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? There's none. Motion carries 5-0. We're going to move item 8D now under this one. Consider and discuss the approval of a contract with Purdue Brandon pursuant to Article 103.001 Texas Code of Criminal Procedure. Said contract for being the collection of court fines and fees owed to the city, and notice of which is provided with the agenda in accordance with section 2254.01036 of the government code. Kent, you want to introduce these folks?
Yes. Mayor and Council, of course, you know Judge Becker, but we also have with us this evening Carlos Arce. He's an attorney with Purdue Brandon, and I've asked him to explain a little bit about the other cities that they currently serve and a little bit of background about the services they will provide the city of Fredericksburg. So, Carlos?
Hi, good evening. Yeah, I feel like y'all kind of gone over quite a bit of it in terms of the ordinance in question. So that ordinance actually comes in conjunction with legislation that came about 20 years ago. Our firm started in 1970, and our focus has been property tax collection since 1970. Once legislation allowed a little over 20 years ago to provide services as well for collections for municipal courts and for JP courts. We also started into that industry as well. So I'm in the San Antonio office for our firm. We have 14 offices throughout the state. We have over 400 employees. We have over 2,100 governmental entities that we represent across the state. In terms of, I guess, the county here, we have represented the county as well for the collections of the fine and fees to the JPs since 2011. We represent Kirk County as well. We represent a variety of entities from Carrizo Springs to Crystal City to City of Sabinal. We're over Universal City. We're in a variety of cities throughout Lytle, Natalia, kind of interspersed and spread out throughout the general region. So that's just kind of a few examples off the top of my head that I could think of. But the main takeaway from this is that our services are an add-on. The defendants do, as was previously mentioned, pay those. As what will happen here should council approve the contract in place. Just to kind of go over it a little bit, the contract currently just reiterates exactly what the statutory fee is in there. It's statutory fee. It can't be more. It can't be less. That's the amount. And on there, it's a 3-year contract with a termination clause of you give us 30 days notice. If you're not satisfied with our services for whatever it may be, we're out, and we have a 6-month wrap-up period and go from there. I know Sue Glover, she's a representative with our firm that has for many years. She's developed relationships here throughout the county and has had opportunities to meet with Judge Becker multiple times. And of course, I know through conferences, Judge Becker's had an opportunity to get to know our firm. We hire we hire individuals who are very familiar with the industry. In other words, not only do we have attorneys in place, not only do we have marketing individuals and client liaisons, but we have an IT in-house as well as call centers that are in-house as part of our firm and that are trained specifically in what we do. But we also have former court administrators from a variety of municipalities throughout the state that are a part of us. So they know exactly the needs of our clients, whether they be big or small. And it positions us in a good spot to be able to provide the needs of not only collections, but everything that goes into it in terms of coordinating with cities of a variety of size. So I don't know if anybody has any particular questions for me.
Jared,
No.
Bobby,
No questions.
Tom?
No question.
Yeah. I have one. How aggressive are you on these collections? I mean, you go knock on the door and handcuff them and drag them off?
No, we leave that to the warrant officers that may be.
Okay, very good, thank you.
One thing, Mayor, will respond to you on, and Shelley may want to add to this. They have template letters that they send out that they allow us to add, change the verbiage in them. And I know Judge Becker's real concerned that they don't come off too hard representing the city's interests. So I think she's going to tone down some of the language. You want to clarify that a little bit, Judge?
Thank you, that's exactly where I was going with that.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, we do control the language. That's going to go out in the letters. I think as being a representative of Fredericksburg, I want to be very careful about that language. I want to make sure people know what their alternatives are. I want to make sure that they feel free to call us, try to work this out. I think that's really important just as the public face of what's going on. So that language will be handled very carefully. As a part of this, as I mentioned earlier, I'll make sure that people understand that they are entitled to an indigency hearing. They're entitled to come in and request community service. And the other thing I really liked about this is if necessary, I can waive that 30%. If we have someone coming in that's struggling and needs a little bit of help, I can always waive that 30% in certain circumstances.
Thank you.
Yeah, if it's a situation where they've been identified as indigent or anything of that nature, or they're going to be providing over community service or something like that, then we're not paid out our fee. It's not a situation where the city's in a position now to have to pay the fee or anything like that. At that point, it's waived. And we've kind of led the industry in terms of switching it over, where it used to be, here's a warrant roundup. You hear from the state, you get all the commercials and the radio blasts about the warrant roundup. And we really changed it over to a case resolution. And that's what we've branded it as, and not a warrant roundup, but a case resolution. We're there to resolve your case.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other comments? Council or staff? Okay, I'll entertain a motion then to consider the approval of the contract with Purdue Brennan pursuant to Article 103.001.
I'll move to approve the contract with Purdue Brandon.
Second.
I have a motion by Bobby and a second by Kathy. Any further discussion? There is none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? There is none. Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you, Council.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to 7B, consider the approval of Resolution 2022-07R responding to the application of Atmos Energy Corporation Mid-Tex Division to increase the rates under the Gas Reliability Infrastructure Program, suspending the effective date of the rate application for 45 days, authorizing the city to continue to participate in a coalition of cities known as the Atmos Texas Municipalities, determining the meeting at which the resolution was adopted, complied with the Texas Open Meetings Act, making such findings and provisions related to the subject, declaring an effective date. Kent?
Mayor and council, this is an item that's come before the council basically every year or two over the last 10 years. What this involves is the fact that Atmos has proposed a rate increase this year. The amount of that rate increase is identified on page 23 of your agenda packet. If it is approved, for example, residential rates would go up from $30.99 a month to $36.14. So $5.15 a month increase for our ratepayers. And so as the mayor indicated, there is a coalition of Texas cities that usually gets involved in these rate cases. It's called Atmos Texas Municipalities. And generally we work together to try to delay these increases to allow our consultant an opportunity to fully review them and offer a position regarding the rate increases. So what we're asking the council to do tonight is to pass this resolution, which would delay the rate increase for 45 days to again allow us to fully review and offer testimony regarding this rate increase. So be glad to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Tom?
Kent, in the past, I know that we've been doing the delay for many, many, many years. In the, I guess, past couple of years, has Atmos come down after we, the group of cities gets their delay? Has Atmos's rates changed? Have they changed their
They've changed,
rates?
but not at their own,
Okay, but,
production. Through
so,
the hearing process, they have come down, but
okay,
not.
after the hearing process, the consumers are getting a better rate.
Yes,
And that's historically, every time we.
not
went
in every
through the-
case, but in some
Okay,
cases.
but history, okay.
Thank you, Kathy. Jerry?
No.
Bob?
No questions.
Okay, I don't have any others, so I'll consider a motion to approve.
Okay, Mayor, I move to approve resolution, 2022-07R regarding the application of Atmos Energy Corporation Midtex, to increase rates under the gas reliability infrastructure program and to suspend the effective date of this rate increase, 45 days.
Second.
We have a motion by Tom, second by Bobby. Any further discussion? There being none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? There is none, motion carries 5-0. Moving on to 8B, consider the approval of the construction manager at Risk Services proposal with J.K. Bernard Construction, Market Square Development. And before I even look up, I know you're standing there, Andrea. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and City
Mayor.
Council.
Hold on, I talked with Daniel, and since I'm on the development board,
Okay.
Daniel recommended I abstain from it.
Are you excusing?
You can just sit in that chair over there, Jerry. Thank you for letting us know that. Thank you, Andrea.
Sure, that's okay. Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Tonight, I'm bringing you a consideration of approving a construction manager at risk service proposal with J.K. Bernhard Construction. This is for the Market Square Redevelopment Commission project on the northwest corner of Market Square. It'll be renovating the annex drive-through, adding a meeting room, some new restrooms, some patio areas outside. This project was approved in 2018. Over the last couple of years, the Market Square Redevelopment Commission has raised about $1 million towards this project, and the city has budgeted about $400,000 for it. The total project budget is estimated between $900,000 and $1.2 million. In 2019, Stan Klein came on board to help with the plans on this project. We had some staff, Stan, an engineer, the Market Square chairman meet, and we are recommending J.K. Bernhard Construction to be approved for this project. So at this time, we'd ask for your consideration on that, and if you have any questions, I can try to answer them, and Stan's here as well. Thank you.
Thank you. But I have a question. When's this project gonna actually start? Soon?
There's a timeline. I'm Stan Klein. There's a timeline that you award this contract this evening, and then a contract is negotiated, signed with the contractor. There's about a 2-week period which the contractor reviews the plans that we've prepared, and with their input, we finalize them, and then the contractor takes them out for bid. So we'll get like 3 bids for each of the categories of work. So to answer your question, there's a schedule that's in your packet that actually says when the award would be made and work would proceed. Again, with the whole conditions of, the bonds and the insurance requirements, all of that would be met before anyone places a foot on the site. Oh, there it is. The notice to proceed is May 24th. That was your question.
Did it? Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions, Councilman? Tom? Kathy?
No questions.
Okay,
I'll
no.
move to approve.
Yeah, we have a motion by Bobby. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Tom. Any further discussion? There is none. What are you making a motion? Did you say?
What we've been talking about.
To
Okay.
approve the construction
Okay.
manager at risk
Just want to
proposal
be sure.
with J.K. Schmidt.
Very good. I just
That's
want
what I
to,
second.
okay, very good. That's what I wanted.
That's right.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? There is none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? There is none. 4-0. Records show that Jerry had recused himself. Where's Jerry at? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Moving on to to 8E. Consider the approval of our agreements with the Texas Center of Wine and Culinary Arts.
Yeah.
Oh.
8C,
Okay, I put an X through there.
JM Pipeline.
Yep. Consider the approval of the award bid to JM Pipelines LLC for the water and sanitary sewer main replacement project construction in the amount not to exceed $600,000. I know Mr. Canadi's already there. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Chris Canese, Public Works Department. So as discussed with Council during the last budget discussion, we have a number of utility infrastructure projects. This one being a replacement of water and wastewater distribution and collection system. We have a number of lines on the water side that are small diameter, 2-inch, undersized, and some of the older distribution piping within our water distribution system. On the sewer side, we have some small 4-inch sewer collection lines that have issues. They're clay tile or so they have roots, create blockages and so forth. So as mentioned, working with council last budget discussion to develop a project to alleviate some of these, some of this infrastructure that does cause our operations department some issues. We developed a set of bid documents, bid those out, very similar to the annual sidewalk project, where we would bid these plans out, not specific to a location, but based on a particular detail, where we could identify certain areas of town, usually a couple blocks, and replace those blocks in the water sewer, depending on what infrastructure needs are there. There's a couple of different things that we would look at as part of identifying these blocks or these portions of town to be replaced, including fire flow requirements. Obviously, some of these small 2-inch lines don't have adequate capacity for fire hydrant, fire protection needs. Obviously, breaks and leaks on those water lines, we would identify those first and try to get those replaced. Similarly, on the sewer side, we have some areas on the sewer collection side that we know are problems, and we're having to go over there and cut roots out or get blockages unstopped and so forth. So in addition to that, we would look at the paving project. We obviously don't want to go tear up a street right after it's been paved. So try to get ahead of that project as well, maybe a year or two out before it's paved, and try to replace those mains and then come back and pave that street, within a year or two. So as I mentioned, we did develop some bid documents in-house. We advertised those for 3 weeks. We opened bids on March the 30th. We received 2 bids for the project. Unfortunately, one of those bids did not qualify. There was a statement on the bids, on the bid notification that was submitted to us that it was only good through April the 8th, I believe. So obviously, we're past that time. So after visiting with the city attorney and city staff, we removed that one bid. So we were left with one qualifying bid, was submitted by JM Pipeline. JM Pipeline is very familiar, does a lot of work in town. They do a number of the subdivisions that you see, including Stone Ridge, Oaks of Windcrest, The Beginnings, Madrono. So all the recent subdivisions they have done the utility work in. So we're very familiar with their staff. They're familiar with our standards and details. So we do recommend approval with this contractor. The city council budgeted $300,000 in the water department fund and $300,000 in the sewer, which is a total of $600,000 in the water department budget. Similar to the sidewalk project, we have set this contract up where we can renew it annually, mutually agreed upon by the contractor, the city, and assuming that city council does budget funds annually for this project. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions. As I mentioned, the project total budget would be $600,000. We'll start identifying blocks and getting some utilities replaced.
Thank you. Bobby?
No questions.
Jerry?
It's kind of similar to what you did on Bell Street over there, doing some replacement like that.
Bell Street was a slightly different project. That's more of a transmission main between South Heights and Windcrest. It's a larger diameter. So in this case, we'd probably replace with 8-inch. That was a 12-inch replacement. And that was also done with in-house crews. This would be done by a private contractor.
Is that gonna impact fees or anything like that?
Kathy?
No questions.
So Chris, are they gonna use pipe bursting on this? Or are they gonna dig holes in the ground and lay new pipe and cover them up?
Yeah, well, this would be.
Oh, this is old school?
All open cut, yes, sir.
Old school.
Correct.
I have one question. The clay pipe, just generally speaking, how long has that been in the ground?
I would say that a lot of this has been since the 40s and 50s.
Oh, kind of like me. Okay. So what we're doing is we're improving infrastructure that's been probably be replaced for several years already. We're just now catching up.
We years ago, I would say probably a little over 5 years ago, we actually were doing some of this with in-house crews, but unfortunately, the amount of small diameter infrastructure that we have, we need to play catch up because these are the sources of our leaks, our stoppages that we're seeing in these neighborhoods. And so we'll still do some of that with in-house crews as we're able, but this will really give us that jump start. Again, similar to the sidewalk project, where we're identifying those blocks, taking care of that infrastructure, and ultimately fire protection is a major concern, obviously, too.
So Chris, the clay pipe that's in the ground now has held up. It's held up well. Not that it needs to stay there, but it's held up and its time has come.
Clay was the material that was used back in those days, and you're right, it has held up very well.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay. Any further comments from council or staff? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve, contract with JM Pipeline Inc. LLC for water and sanitary sewer main replacement projects.
Have a motion by Bobby and a second by Jerry. Any further discussion? There being none, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? There is nothing. Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Now we're gonna go to 80. Consider the approval of agreements with the Texas Center of Wine and Culinary Arts. I, lease agreement for the property located at University Center. Double I, Chapter 380, Economic Development Agreement.
Mayor, I'm on the board, and so I will recuse.
Okay, Bobby. Thank you.
Yeah, go sit up there.
Kent?
Mayor and members of the council, so this evening, we're proposing both a lease agreement and an economic development agreement with the Texas Center for Wine and Culinary Arts, DBA Flavory TX. And of course, this is for property at the University Center. And these two items that are before the council tonight are the culmination of a lot of years of the city working with the Center for Wine and Culinary Arts. If you'll recall, they originally had proposed a site over on Hooper. And so a number of years ago, they moved their proposed location out to the University Center. And following their focus on the University Center, the city actually incorporated the center into the University Center master plan back in 2017. So we've been looking at the site at the University Center for over 5 years. Daniel worked very closely with Ernie in developing the language for the lease and economic development agreement that's before you this evening. So I think between Daniel and Ernie, they can answer most of your questions. We also have several members of the board here this evening, including Ernie, Tim, Cynthia Scroggins, anybody else? Yep.
Tom Heaver.
Okay, yeah, there's Tom, okay. So we've got a good turnout of the board members. And but one of the things I wanted to point out to the council, we discussed with the council specific responsibilities of the city if the agreements before you this evening are approved. And I want to make sure that these are identified for the council and the public. The only item that's really identified for this year, funding this year, is clearing the site there at the property. Again, it's a 5.11 acre site. And there is some site clearing that has to be done. And Garrett Bond and our staff worked very closely with Ernie and identifying the site clearing that would need to happen. The total cost of that is $16,530. So this is some expense the city would incur this year if the agreements are approved this evening. In the future, the agreement calls for the city to provide utility services to the property line. And we have done similar arrangements with the former Texas Ranger site. We had an economic development agreement, a lease agreement with that organization where we extended utilities to their site. And in the case of the University Center property, the estimated cost for sanitary services is about $135,000. For electric services, about $136,000. And for water, we're currently unknown because it depends on the ultimate size and location of the building for the center. It may require us to extend the water line and add a fire hydrant in the future. And if that occurs, then the cost to the city would be around $209,000. So none of those expenditures are planned for the next several years because I think already agree that it will probably take at least a couple of years to raise the funds and design and bid the project. But these are some future obligations for the city I wanted to make sure the council was aware of before you consider approval of the agreement this evening. So that's all I have to say. So Ernie, you want to take it from there?
Yes. Good evening, Mayor and City Council. I'm Ernie Leffler, President of the Fredericksburg Convention and Visitor Bureau and Chairman of the Tech Center for Wine and Culinary Arts. As Kent mentioned, that we now are rebranded as Flavory Texas, and I'll talk about that just a bit. The purpose of the Wine and Culinary Arts Center Flavory Texas is to inspire memorable experiences by being actively curious through an atmosphere of experimentation and learning. How are we going to accomplish that? We have been organized as a 501c3 since 2011. We plan to do education and events on site at the Hill Country University Center. COVID taught us that we need to be online with educational opportunities as well. And then we also will be doing Flavory Texas travel experiences as a source of revenue where we'll take people to different culinary events around Texas. Who are our initial target audiences? Professionals in the food, culinary, and beverage trade in Texas, local residents, visitors to the Hill Country, Fredericksburg Independent School District culinary and hospitality students, and Texas Tech students in viticulture, enology, small farms, and as we heard announced at the Tech 20th anniversary, now we'll be offering room programming at the site here in Fredericksburg as well. Restaurant and hotel and institutional management courses. So what are we going to build on the 5.11 acres? We're looking at an educational facility of approximately 18,000 square feet, which is going to be very flexible. There'll be very little classroom space as we know it. Obviously, the building on the campus already has a great deal of classroom space. The plan is to build a teaching winery, which will complement Texas Tech's teaching vineyard on the campus, a teaching kitchen and indoor event space, a kitchen garden and outdoor teaching and event space, offices for staff and faculty, and parking as required by the city. Some of the overreaching goals, we want to insist in improving the quality of Texas food, beverage, and culinary arts through continuing education opportunities for owners and existing employees in the industry throughout the state of Texas. We also want to explore ways to educate students, both traditional and non-traditional, to fill the increasing number of food, beverage, and culinary jobs in our community and the region. We're going to be working with institutions, organizations such as FISD, Texas Tech, Central Texas College, the Hill Country University Center Foundation, the Gillespie County Economic Development Commission, the CVB, the Chamber of Commerce, and other appropriate organizations to expand Flavory Texas' effectiveness as a regional education resource and to solidify, Fredericksburg's branding position as a culinary destination. One other important thing to mention, the city, of course, did the Pathway to the Future report, the vision report, and this particular project actually plays into 4 of the points in the visioning program: diverse economy vision, education, training, and workforce development, which is really a lot of what we're about, the tourism vision, and the winery vision. So where are we at? Kent already alluded to it a little bit. Hopefully, we will have a physical location at the Hill Country University Center. The project has been rebranded to Flavory Texas because we want to embrace food from growing to preparation to the table and all of the beverages, wine, beer, and spirits. We used to just talk about wine, but we're trying to be more inclusive and include everybody that's in the region now. Our new website is being designed literally as we speak, and a piece for development work is being designed as well. If the lease and economic development agreement is approved tonight, Mustard Design is on standby to begin architectural design of the project, And fundraising will be intensified when our development materials are ready, hopefully within the next couple of weeks or month. So I think that's kind of a real fast nutshell. I think most of you are probably fairly familiar with the project, but, and I did give you just to, kind of reiterate a copy of the master plan for the campus. If you look at that campus master plan, the entry off of 290 is at the bottom. The current building is right there, kind of in the middle. And then off to the right, of course, toward the property line is the site for the Wine and Culinary Arts Center, Flavory, Texas, just above and to the right of the vineyards and current gardens that Texas Tech has. And then just an outline of the property that we're looking to lease. And just kind of for your visual, putting it in place, if you go the route that circles around, up around the campus, and you go back where it makes a left into the kind of the big parking lot by the HEB room. Right across there is where the 5.11 acres ends. So it's the corner up to that where the main drive goes into the parking lot. Kind of right before you get to where Lester Meyer has his horses. Just to put it in perspective visually. So anyway, I'll stop there and answer any questions that you may have, or try to answer them anyway.
Tom?
So, Eric Mustard and his team are aware of the topography of this site?
Yes, they are.
Okay.
And we're looking at it as an opportunity to do a very creative building.
Maybe something on stilts or built into the side of a hill.
Actually, the teaching winery may be built into the hill with gravity flow in that winery. You're right. Right.
Because the reason
Right.
I'm looking at the map that you provided us, and there's quite a bit of steep elevation over there.
There is.
But you can do amazing things with the D9.
Yeah, we actually, well, as the master planning was going, but like I said, we really view it as an opportunity to have our buildings sitting up a little above the plane there and create some amazing views from the facility.
That definitely would be the first thing you see when you turn into the campus.
Yeah, and coming from town as well.
Yep. Jerry?
No.
None, thank you. I really liked your answer. Use what you have.
Yes, sir.
Try to change it. A little more expensive, but the end result is probably a whole lot nicer.
Yeah, there was some talk about grading or, moving, but that's not what we're going to do. We're going to go up the rise. There is about halfway up, there is a little flat area before it goes up another little steep. So part of the building will sit there, I'm sure.
Thank you.
Well, Mayor, I move to approve the agreements with the Texas Center for Wine and Culinary Arts, lease agreement for property located at the University Center, and the Chapter 380 Economic Development.
Have a motion by Tom, second by Kathy. Any further discussion? There is none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, there is none. Motion carries 4-0. Bobby has recused himself. Thank you.
Thank you very much from the Flavory Texas Board and our donors for the approval of the lease at the Hill Country University Center. We appreciate it. We'll invite you to the grand opening.
Boy, that's a big vision there.
I hope I have my driver's license.
We're going to go fast.
And I
We're in
paid all
time.
my fines.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Take a wine tour with us.
Okay, moving on to F, consider the award of a 2022 hotel occupancy tax, HOT, a recipient funding. Shelley, did you want to address this or?
Did they approve the PAD agreement?
Okay. Council, what's y'all's desires? We've gotten the information beforehand. We had our discussion last meeting and let's move forward. And I think the amount that we have budgeted is 500,000.
Mayor,
Go ahead, please, Kathy.
I thought about how to do this maybe fairly and efficiently. And this has been done before with different amounts, but I would suggest that everything that's being asked for that's $8,000 or less, that we go ahead and approve or award. And then that would, if you want to go along with that, that would amount to about just under $70,000 worth of funds. Following that, then we would have if my addition is correct, a request for just over 700,000. And those are the larger projects. And we would need to reduce that to 430,000 to reach the 500.
Kathy, did you say $3,000?
8,000.
Oh, eight, I'm sorry. I was just gonna say, boy, that only eliminated about
No.
4.
8,000.
Well, not eliminated, but approved. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, it eliminates quite a number.
8,000. Any comments, council? I have no issue.
I would rather go through, I think, go through each one. I think, you know, some are increases from the last time we heard, and I think we need to discuss some of those.
Okay, we have,
I would say that all of those that are under 8,000 are kind of, some of them are quite unique, bring some difference to this town. 8,000 seems to be a good cutoff point. It allows us to do this efficiently and not nitpick each one. So I think it would be an easy way to address this, and then we can worry about the bigger ones, which bring in more tourism and more plus money.
I think, I don't know if it was last year or the year before, but we approved everything $5,000 and under, not
Right,
but
yeah,
5.
that's been done before.
Yeah, and I'm fine either way.
well, I don't remember that amount of $5,000, but I do know there was a time when we had enough money to fund them all.
Yeah.
So why, but this year
But
we
we
don't.
don't.
I don't have any issues with Kathy's comments on doing that.
I'm fine with it.
Jerry, comment?
No, yeah, like there's some items on here that, you know, you just kind of question that are new to, the hot taxes, and I think we need to question them, and they're 8,000 and under, so.
Yeah, I think that everything on here is worthy, but there are some.
Oh, I know.
There are some requests in here that are like going from $4,000 to $6,000, and I'd like an understanding of why you need to go up half again. That was the reason, my rationale in wanting to talk about that.
Okay, well, we seem to have a consensus on 8,000 and less. Is that a fair statement?
You have a majority,
So
not a
do we,
consensus.
majority?
Okay, so what Laura is keeping track of this, so Laura, will you go ahead, plug in the amounts of all and so we'll have a running total for y'all to work with. So if you'll go ahead and mark the 8,000 or less projects being, tentatively approved by the city council.
I have done that, and I included the last two on there that were in red on the spreadsheet. I guess those came in late. They were also under 8,000, so I did include them as well. And we've got, that comes up to 69,565 and leaves 430,435 to still award.
Kathy, your suggestion did include the
Yes.
parade and the Art Guild project?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so then 789, 905 is what's left that's being requested. Is that correct? Am I reading that correct from here? 789, 985.
That was the total ask.
Well, that was the total ask. Okay.
What's remaining to budget is $430,435 to award.
Okay.
430.
Okay, I see it now. Okay.
So the total of the others that are remaining is about just over 700,000.
Yeah, 789 is what? Or have you subtracted the 69 out of that?
That would leave 720,340 if you took the 69,000 from the 789 that's been asked for.
Okay.
So we have 430,000.
That was based on the
405.
budgeted amount of 500,000 plus what has been.
Right.
And if you want to fund everything, you take it out of the tourism fund.
Good.
Do we have money in the tourism fund that's dedicated, that's set aside for projects?
Laura, what is our balance, over and above what we paid at, CBB that's available? I know we budgeted 500 for this.
We budgeted 500, however, I don't have that in front of me right now.
Okay.
I can get that for you tomorrow.
There's a couple items I have problem with.
Well, yeah, I was just curious, so.
Yeah.
We do, Councilmember, we do have the ability, financial ability to go over 500,000.
Okay.
I don't think that's a hard, fast figure. You know, council would have to amend the budget later on this year, but we
Okay.
do have some extra funding if y'all need to go over that with me.
Right.
Well, Kathy's got some concerns on it, three items I know, and,
Well, if you don't, so we can kind of keep in order and don't get, scattered here. If you don't mind, let's start at the top.
stop and
And,
going down.
and we can put a check mark by the 8,000 and less, and we can visit on the ones that are $8,001 and more. So if I'm reading this correctly, we would go to number 2. Is that correct? Chamber
Right,
Christmas? Any issues or concerns with that amount?
No.
No,
no,
Holy Ghost Lutheran Church, $1,000.
We've already.
we've already done.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's
Okay, I
done,
need to jump down. I apologize.
Um,
Number 5, yeah, if I missed one, don't hesitate. Number 5, the Gillespie County Fair Association, 65,000.
No problem.
I'm okay with that.
Are you?
fine.
Gillespie County Historical Society, 300,000. I think this is one that
That's
raises
one
the
we need to talk about.
eyebrows a bit. Okay. Kathy, I think you want to start off on that one,
Okay.
please do.
Well, on the Historical Society,
Yes, ma'am.
well, I was thinking that we should give them something to at least work on restoring the exterior of the building, because we learned last meeting that the interior will be primarily for office space and not tourists or visitors. So I would suggest we go down to 100,000. 100,000 is a pretty good start on an outside of a building.
I'm fine with 100,000.
I'm too.
Okay. So where does that get us? Are you gonna subtract that for us right away? Or on the spreadsheet there?
Are you looking for the amount above 500,000 that was budgeted?
Yeah, what we have left there.
Well, she's got- she's
253,
calculating that.
435.
She has 253, 435 left down there.
253,
She put in 100,000 there.
okay.
Gillespie County Schools.
Number 7,
Do you have up there how much? Okay, we have $253,000 roughly left in our budget for this. How much do we still have outstanding that we haven't approved yet?
543,000.
We may come back. Okay.
We'll get there.
Friends of Gillespie County Country Schools, 29,970,000.
I'm fine with that.
It's fine.
25, I said 30.
Go
Yeah.
30.
They're
Round it-
asking for
round it.
29,970.
Yeah. You wanna go
29,970.
Take it
Round
there.
it up,
Make 30.
okay.
30.
Dr. Lindley would like that. Okay, moving down now to the Admiral Limits Foundation, or the Admiral Limits, 140,000.
I'm fine with that.
Fine.
I'm good.
Oktoberfest, 10.
Good.
Good,
Fine.
Fredericksburg Food and Wine,
fine.
Fredericksburg Rotary Club, Craft beer, this is a new, is that the new one?
That's new.
Yeah.
Can we go on and let's come back to that? Since that's a new festival.
Okay, we'll come back. Good question. Okay. J.C.'s, number 16, J.C.'s Crawfish Festival. They want less,
Yep.
20,000. I'm good. Going down to the former Texas Ranger history, 20,000.
This one I have some problems. It just described my concern. We entered into an agreement with them in 2011. Under that agreement, they were required to complete phase one by February of 2018. And that phase one at that time was the educational center, galleries, exhibits, court building, etc. That somehow that got switched with the second phase, which is the auditorium facility, which we now have. So we do not have a museum this time. In 2018, they requested an extension of time to do the museum part, and that extension was agreed to. And so now they're to complete that by February of 2025, so 3 more years before they become an actual museum. We give a lot of money to museums. This is basically giving money to an event center. Another thing that concerns me about this is in that original agreement, they agreed to provide an annual financial statement and a financial project review by in February of every year. I assume that their fiscal year ends January 31. So last week we asked for and received the first financial agreement that we've ever received as far as we can determine. This financial statement is from end of July 31st for the first six months, ending, first 7 months. So maybe their fiscal year is the calendar year. In that, and I don't know if there's anyone here to answer a question about this. In that income statement, and I assume this is for the entire Texas Rangers, not just Fredericksburg, but I don't know. They show advertising at $7,338 for half the year. Last year we gave 40,000. So if you double that, because they haven't timely filed their year-end statement. You double that, you're a little over 14,000, and we gave them 40 for advertising. I assume it was for advertising. That's what they're asking for this time. So considering all those things, I think we should wait to give them anything until they start completing the project that is probably most like a museum and probably most like the kind of entity that we support with these funds. Just my thoughts.
Thank you, Kevin. Well said. Any comments, Councilman?
I was in favor of decreasing each of the requests for the celebrate and then history from 20,000.
I would agree with that.
I agree.
I can go with that. So one of the questions I kind of thought about, Ernie, is when we do this advertising for the city, can't there be some coordination between different groups where this advertising is, instead of having 10 entities out there, have maybe 1 or 2 that kind of combine some of this stuff so that it's not such a large amount on everybody? I know you look at, I think it's Texas Highways. You look in the back of that, and I mean, what? Was that you? Or were you a ventriloquist there, Ernie? No, but I was just, you look in Texas Highway Magazine, and in the back, they have a lot, all the cities, and it breaks out what they have, what's going on, and, can we coordinate some of this advertising together instead of everybody advertising themselves?
I think the answer to your question is that typically the Convention and Visitor Bureau, we do branding their image of, for the city and the county. We do, have on our website all the events listed, but generally speaking, we don't run ads for a specific event at this point in time. The exception, I mean, the thing that we're working on right now as part of the 175th anniversary, we do have like ads that you'll be seeing in the newspaper shortly, Wednesday, that lists all the events for the 175th. But like I said, typically our advertising drives people to Fredericksburg and Gillespie County, builds the image of the town and the city, and then it's up to the individual entities and or events to promote their particular event or their museum. But that can always be changed, but that's how it works now. And like I said, on our website, we do, promote all the events, list all the events, list all the attractions, list all the wineries, et cetera. Which, last numbers we have, it's like 1.6 million visitors that see that information. So our potential visitors, I should say. Does that kind of answer your question or not?
Well, I noticed the books, the books that you have out on Main Street, and, those are some very well-done books, and, I'm sure a lot of, some of the advertising, I don't know how to coordinate, to different cities and that, if it can be done.
Yeah, well, and sometimes we do coordinate. I see Debbie is here. One of the things we do with some of the big festivals that Debbie runs, we do coordinate what magazine she's advertising in, what we're advertising in. Sometimes it's good to actually have two ads, and you kind of double your double your fun or whatever. There's an ad about Fredericksburg, and then there's an ad about Oktoberfest. In German Life is one that comes to mind that we typically run two ads, but that's kind of, in the big picture, we sell the entire city and the town and convince people that want to come here. And then it's kind of up to, and this applies to retail, for example, restaurants as well. It's up to individual entities to get part of the visitors that do show up and come to Fredericksburg. But like I said, there's, depending on what the city council would like done, we can certainly look at other opportunities, other ways of doing it. We have found in the past that when we tried to do co-op ads where we'd run one big ad and try to get people to buy into them, that did not work well. Nobody wanted to play with us, unfortunately. So we have tried that of sorts in previous years, but it hasn't worked as well as I had hoped it would have worked.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So Mayor and Council, was the recommendation on both 21 and 22, $10,000 on both those?
That's my understanding, yes.
I would prefer not to give them anything this year. Lose that.
Okay, we're gonna move down to the Fredericksburg Theater Company, $50,000.
I didn't, so last year, it's up 30,000 to.
Okay, according to there, we got $23,435. And
I think we're just going to try to go through one time and then go back and see if y'all want to cut
Okay.
some.
And if not, there is
Theater
sufficient.
Club is good. I mean, I've been to their place. They're excellent.
I would agree with Tom to
40.
reduce it to 40.
I'll go with that.
Okay.
And the other one is the Craft Beer Festival.
26.
That's,
Yeah,
well,
let's go back.
let's go, you want to go
Yeah,
to
let's
26?
Yeah, let's
Go
keep
down,
going
okay.
down in order, that way we don't get scattered.
Then the
They're stop this.
city cemetery.
Yeah.
The Friedhof.
I have a problem
City
with this.
Cemetery. Tell us your problem, Kathy.
Okay. Well, basically, it's my understanding they're asking to build a road. And I understand that this road that they have at the north side of the cemetery is inundated with water runoff. So they have to probably repair it periodically. But this is really just building a road. And I don't think that's what hot funds are really intended to do. For example, we fund the country schools. And some intelligent person said to me today that this funding this would be like funding the road to the school. The road needed repair. And to me, this is something the county should put in its budget since the cemetery is in the county. And put it in its road fixing budget, not given out through.
Mayor, council, I don't recall any time the city has funded road repairs or road improvements out of hot taxes. I think Daniel has indicated that since the cemetery is a historic, site, then does meet the requirements of the hot legislation, but I don't recall us ever funding a road project out of hot funds.
That's what they want. They want the money to
That's
retain.
according to the narrative that they submitted, that's where they plan to spend the money.
Well, I think if they want to do that is to help prevent some of the water erosion that's going on in there, which is destroying some of the historical grave sites.
Yeah.
So here's the circle to it. I don't agree with the amount, but I think they're entitled to something from the city to help. There's some wonderful historical grave sites out there. Even though we can't possibly get the full amount, I think we should give something to help, start the prevention of that.
Grandparents.
So I'm gonna recommend, $10,000.
I'm okay with that.
I'm fine with it.
That's fine.
And if the council wants to allocate that for another purpose, that maybe they could use it and offset some other funding that they can maybe use to do the road. So if the road is the issue, council, you could.
How about preservation of
Good
grave
work.
sites?
Yeah.
Sure, I mean, it's at your discretion.
Yeah.
That way, you can alleviate that concern of maybe funding something you may think is less appropriate with the pot, and then they can use their other money for other things.
Okay.
You just need to make that part of your approval, and we can put that in the contract.
So that leaves us with 15.
Do what?
That leaves us with number 15.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Craft beer.
Oh, I thought that was with money.
No.
Okay.
There's
My
never-
math really just went down the tube. Okay, number 15, going back to the, craft, I think Tom, you raised the question about,
This,
did we,
this is a brand new festival. And, I'd be willing to give them, some money for advertising, but I think, did they receive any money last year? There was no festival last year, is that correct? Okay.
Debbie, what do you think? You're the pro from Dover.
thank you, Debbie. You didn't hide well enough.
Yeah, you did. I saw you.
Thank you. I'm Debbie Ray, and the Fredericksburg Rotary Club has hired my firm to create and market and make this event happen. The $10,000 would greatly help fund the advertising portion of our rather large budget. The Rotarians have done a very good job canvassing the community to raise monies. We didn't raise all the money, of course, but we're right in the midst of the big throes of planning the event. And the advertising dollars, the plan is there. The expenditures will happen, irregardless of what you say this evening, but it sure will help. The Rotarians are going to give 20% of their proceeds to the Grace Center, and the rest will go to fund their scholarships and the commitments they have already made for this year and the beginning of next year. As far as the monies that we received before, with the cancellation of that event as well, I purposely bought ads at the end of the year that ran early spring of 2022.
Okay, advertising this and that.
Yes, sir. Yes, I did.
What was the question?
She did return some of the funds that she got.
Okay, I knew, thank you.
But anything with beer is gonna go over in French.
But it's another alcohol festival.
Yeah.
It's the first one. We are, that's what we did here.
That's what we did.
Yeah. I'm just questioning the first year, come back the next year and say, it went over great, we're gonna expand. I just questioned for the amount of money for the first year of the festival.
What are the dates, Debbie?
June 10th and 11th. June 10th is the competition for the craft beer, and June 11th is the all-day festival. And just to support them a little bit more, advertising is expensive, so the help would be greatly appreciated.
How many participants do you have so far?
Well, as far as the competition goes, that deadline is May 31.
Oh, okay.
As far as the Texas craft breweries that will be present on Market Square, we have 22 thus far.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow. You know, I hate to say you gotta spend money to make money, and, because I'm a firm believer in that. I want this thing to be a success, for future events, and I agree with Tom, you know, this is the very beginning, but, you know, I'd like to hit it with the $10,000 to really give them a push. Let's see what happens for the next go around, and get the numbers that I'm sorry, Debbie has percent that would help these organizations.
I would agree, Charlie.
I'll go with that.
I agree.
10,000, thank you.
I thank you, and I thank you for all of your hard work making these decisions. It's not easy. Thank you. If you would like to volunteer, we're still accepting volunteers.
Yeah, put me down.
Yeah,
I'll
put me
work at all
down.
22 of them.
Yeah, well, I'll be there.
Okay, we're what, over budget?
How much are we over?
36, 560?
36,565 over budget.
Do we have enough to
Over.
cover that?
In the tourism fund, I'm sure.
Yes, sir. And as Shelley alluded to, a lot of the money last year was returned because they had to cancel the event. So we did have a surplus carryover from last year.
I would
Okay.
suggest we approve with the over budget.
Yeah, I would move that we would transfer $36,565.
So we talked about everybody? Is this everyone?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
The under eights and then down the line.
Okay.
I think we got them,
I'll,
unless I missed somebody.
I'll second that.
Have a motion by Tom, second by Bobby. Any further discussion? There isn't. All those in favor?
Aye.
Hey, did you go?
Yeah, write a check.
I went along.
Opposed? Oh, okay, okay. 5-0. I didn't hear you, so that's why I wanted to be sure.
Thanks.
Thank you. All right, public comments, number 9, we do have 3 people who have signed up. Jerry McCorkle, you're on deck. You're up first, I'm sorry. George Studer, you're on deck. I know you guys know the routine. You'll have, 3 minutes. You'll get a 1-minute warning sound. You go and you'll get an end sound. Introduce yourself and if you're a city resident, Jerry. Thank you.
I'm Jerry McCorkle, and I am a Fredericksburg resident. I get a daily thing called the Texas Minute, Monday through Friday, which puts me in touch with what's happening in Austin. And I want to say government is not God. It may have the first 2 letters of that name, but they're not God, but they're working their hardest to get there. Most Texans recognize that the COVID pandemic is over, but the governor doesn't think so. As cases have sharply dropped and hospitalization rates are nowhere near where they were at the height of the COVID scare, most Texans have largely resumed living their lives as normal. Even that liberal city of Austin has repealed all of its COVID-related orders and mandates. But more than 2 years after the first declaring COVID a public health emergency, Governor Greg Abbott says it still poses an imminent threat of disaster for all the counties in the state of Texas, and has kept extending his emergency orders that have usurped the normal constitutional process of government since then. On March 13th of 2020, Governor Abbott announced at a press conference in the Capitol that he would be declaring a state of emergency over the coronavirus after 39 cases were reported in the state of Texas. Declaring a state of disaster is a key component of these efforts because it allows the state to effectively serve the people of Texas without hindrance or delay, Abbott said at the time. But while the original order was set to expire after 30 days, it has been renewed every month since then. That emergency declaration has been the basis of every COVID-related executive order issued since then, from lockdowns and mask mandates to more recent orders seeking to push back against vaccine mandates. The Texas legislature had the opportunity during their session last year to take action in the emergency orders, as well as to pass legislation curtailing the executive overreach. They didn't do that. Indeed, the legislature failed to pass legislation banning business closures, mask mandates, or vaccine mandates. At least one lawmaker has spoken up and said it is past time the the emergency orders. State Representative Brian Slayton, is a Republican from Royce City, recently wrote a letter to Governor Abbott calling for an end to the orders altogether. What was started as 15 days to slow the spread has turned into 24 months of unprecedented government regulations, a massive transfer of wealth from small businesses to mega corporations, families separated from loved ones, and fear permeating every thought and action. If Texas were to end its COVID state of emergency, it would join 29 other states that have already taken that step. We need to slow down government. Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry. George, and then we have Edward Brody on deck.
George Studer, 1015 Avenue D. First of all, I wanted to thank all the candidates for the upcoming election that turned in all of their answers, their 20 questions. And I've been able to produce a file out of those answers in the format of by candidate and by question. And that'll be posted tonight on our website and available for the forum that we have on Thursday. The subject I wanted to talk about is the audits. And as I read about that, I have looked at my Atmos bill, I started thinking about how we ought to be auditing the residents. Auditing the condition of the residents and their costs and their risks. And think of it in terms of you looking at your bill and seeing what happened to my Atmos numbers and my city utility bills last year compared to this year. And I'll give you some numbers here in a minute. Basically, that the residents are incurring a number of serious costs and cost of living increases. And so before you move into your budgeting phase, I would ask you to take stock of what those residents, like yourselves even, are encountering, and as well as the risks that are out there. They are the voters are the foundation of our city. So please consider the down-to-earth financial challenges for them and the uncertainties of our financial system. For example, our president just initiated serious planning for a switch from central to a central bank digital currency. And that's just like what China has. And, there's probably some big picture financial questions when you go into your budget and look at those as well as the ones that the residents are facing. I'll give you some numbers. You've seen the consumer price index go up. They quote 8.5% across the country. For the wage earners, it's actually 9.4. And our housing here, just look at my house, it went up 30% in 1 year. And gas prices are up 38%. Used cars are up 41%. And when we look at our Atmos bill, the usage, the natural gas monthly charge has gone up 17% and the taxes up 19%. And the usage rate is up 50%. The city has kept their flat rate charges for water, sewer, and electric about the same, but the rate charge for water has gone up 37%. And so I'm just wanting you to take a look at your own expenses and what the residents are seeing as far as going to this budget cycle.
Thank you, George. Edward?
Edward Brody, not in the city. I'm requesting Chapter 43 annexation law from the city. Because I printed one out. Mr. Jones said it wasn't right. He printed one out, and then he claims later on he didn't give me that one. Then I got one from him. That was what I printed out originally, but it's one little difference in there. The last paragraph of C1 is missing in there. It's not in there. So I would like to request one. But this one we don't want to go back and forth on. I would like the city manager and the city attorney to sign it, saying this is the correct one and that it's complete. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, thank you for that. Okay, those are the only individuals that sign up for public comment. So we'll move on now to number 10, city manager report.
Mayor and council members, I've had 3 items on the city manager's report this evening. I'll cover the first 2 items and then I think Clinton's going to cover item 10C. First off, a reminder, item A, reminder that we have a special meeting next Tuesday, a week from tomorrow. This will be a joint city council county commissioners meeting starting at 8:30 in the fire training room. Right now, we have 4 items on the agenda. We're considering adding a 5th item if we get approval from the county. The 4 items that are on the agenda right now are affordable housing. We'll have a update report from Vince Michelle on that and some discussion among council members and commissioners on how to move forward on some of the affordable housing initiatives that Vince has identified. And then Clinton will provide an update on the sports park, the fundraising that has taken place, the situation with water services out there, and other, in the easement, update on the easement, other items related to the sports park. And then 2 items that the fire chief will cover will be the preferred location for the 3rd fire station site. He will have maps showing his reasoning and recommendation for recommending a specific site. And then we will have a report on fire EMS communication systems. The system that being recommended would serve all the fire departments within the county. And we'll have a presentation on that. And so those are the 4 items. Last week, it was suggested that we add a discussion report on Friendship Boulevard. And we have, the mayor's approved that, but I have not had approval from the county judge to add that to the agenda yet. So that I will call the judge tomorrow and see if he wants to add that. And that'll be basically just an update from Garrett and Clinton on the project, the extension of Friendship and the estimated cost. And just to remind everybody that now that the relief route is off the table for discussion, there is another major improvement that's been discussed out there that would relieve some of the traffic conditions we're experiencing in the downtown area. So this is a project to bring back for your consideration, and hopefully the county would partner in that project. So no decisions will be made on any of these items at the meeting on the 26th, but this will just allow us an opportunity to discuss some major items coming forward in the near future. Any questions on that meeting?
Yes, I have one question on, when we start talking about Friendship, will you have any information, will you provide the council at that time, information regarding, state law, concerning, school zones? Since that part of Friendship Lane around Holmig is going to be fronting the proposed Fredericksburg middle school. And my understanding, I saw a diagram today that there is an entrance on Friendship Lane, and if state law requires slowing down to 20 on Friendship Lane because it's going by a school, we need to have a discussion about that too.
We have had some preliminary discussions with the school district about that. They're also going to be talking to the state on State Highway 16 there, possibly extending the school zone that's already in place near the high school. But legally, I think, as far as the state right of way goes, I think you can only legally drop it 15 miles an hour during school zone or school periods. So I think the speed limit there is 40 miles an hour. So it would only be able to drop the 25.
Is this an appropriate discussion?
I'm okay with Garrett's response, but I don't know we should deliberate beyond that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, but we'll be prepared to talk about that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Okay, any other questions on item 10A? If not, 10B, we had a very successful meeting last Monday night. Thank you to the members of the council and the public that attended the presentations by the 3 finalists for the police chief position. That was very well received by the public. It was very well handled by the 3 finalists. We got lots of positive feedback on their answers to the questions and their overall presentation. So that went well. Next week, we will have the actual interviews for that position. And we have a 7-member interview panel. And following those interviews, then a decision will be made. I think in talking to Clinton today, he plans to make that decision the first week in May. So Clinton, do you want to add anything to that report?
That's good, Kent. Nothing to add.
Okay. Any questions on where we are in that recruitment process? Okay, Clinton, you have item 10C.
Sure. Had a couple of items to update the council on regarding development services, and I might ask Garrett to provide an update as well. Regarding the comp plan, we've talked about comp plan interviews. We have reduced the number of firms down to 2 that we will interview. We're talking about trying to go through that process mid-May now instead of waiting 6 months or so. The process of getting someone on board is going to take a little bit of time to begin with. Beginning the comp plan process, there's a lot of information that will be pouring in that's not as critical to the process. We have a little bit of time at the beginning as we're also beginning to advertise for a development services director position. So we're talking about starting that effort a little bit sooner than later. We understand we're a little bit behind on the effort right now. So expect that to begin kicking off sometime in mid-May. Regarding the development services director position, we're beginning to modify the job profile currently and talking about the process, the interview process for the position. If you'll recall, the last time around, we did a pretty significant interview process. The council, P&Z, was involved in a portion of that, the lunch portion. Garrett and I are talking about going through a similar process for the new position. So we'll likely begin advertising for that position sometime in the next couple of weeks.
If you include P&Z in city council, would you might consider the historic district? Folks?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Sure. You have anything to add, Garrett?
No, I do appreciate this opportunity. I've been meeting with staff numerous times, talking about how we're going to handle the roles and responsibilities during this interim phase. As you're aware, development services is very busy at this time, but we will do everything in our power to make sure nothing slips through the cracks. So again, thank you.
Blue connect. Thank you, Gary. Any other comments from council on these? If not, we'll move on to council comments, and I'll start to my right. Jerry? Bobby?
We had an airport advisory board meeting today. Just a couple comments. The T hangar occupancy is still 100% with 30 on the wait list. Crosswind, which is a company that trains pilots, and they have other programs as well, made a report that the Fredericksburg ISD will probably implement a flying curriculum probably within the next 2 years. Not next year, but probably the following year. So that's pretty exciting for everyone at the airport. The airport had an open house last week, talking about some of the plans they have in the future. They had 23 to 30 people attend, offering feedback and just getting an idea of what's planned at the airport. And the fuel sales year to date, if you'll remember, last year was a record year. They sold 530,000 gallons of fuel. They're already 26% over last year's sales. Now, a lot of this, not a majority, but a large part of this is also the Texas Forest Service. They have equipment stationed at Fredericksburg, and they've been flying a lot of missions out of here fighting fires. So that accounts for a lot of it. The only other thing that I'd like to say is May 7th is the day to vote, and it's a pretty big election. We've got the mayor and 2 council seats. We also have the 175th parade that morning. So vote early or vote after the parade, but it's a big election, so please get out and vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Tom?
To piggyback a little bit on what Bobby said, I attended the airport, the observation deck dedication last week, and we were, it was great dedication. The city did a great job in creating the walk up to the viewing stand. I was able to, while we were there were a couple landings. Some of them were very smooth and some of them were very bouncy. So
They were students.
they were students. Speaking of Fredericksburg High School and the, I guess the pilot, at one time, the high school had a pilot training, the whole system that the rocket program was using. I don't know that, of course, that was a long time ago, so they might have done away with that. The other thing I'd like to talk about is, I guess everybody's aware that I do live on Friendship Lane. I've lived on Friendship Lane since it was a 2-lane Caliche Road. Now I understand that its new name is Friendship Boulevard. I'm not so sure that's probably the best name for it, but we have the city has approved numerous projects on Friendship, and I want to give you an update on some of the ones that are going on now. At the corner of Friendship and Eagle, a condo project by Robert Mosley they have the walls put up on one of the 4 buildings today. So down Eagle Street, the Collins condo project is they've got pads down. There's been no construction of forms, so nothing's been going on there for about 3 weeks. To the west of me, across the street on the Friendship Oaks, they are going and blowing this past week or two. They're scraping dirt. They've got sewer pipe out there. They have built silt berms, which I have had discussion with Garrett about some of the silt berms out there. I hope they get those fixed before we have a rain, or the Friendship Place apartments are going to be in a world of hurt. Development is, I'm glad to see the development going on. This is one way of increasing housing stock. The Friendship Oaks development is an R1A development, plus some R3 higher density apartment buildings, and then an R2 area. The Seco, they haven't done, nothing's been going on with the Seco across the road. But I think that once these developments get in, it will add to our housing stock, which we need. I don't think it's going to solve any long-term problems, but at least it's a start. Thank you.
Kathy?
No comments.
Okay, thank you. First of all, I got to be the Easter Bunny again at the Pioneer Museum. Great time. The kids coming up are excited or terrorized, and really was. I wish somebody behind me would take pictures of the parents, the grandparents, the aunts and uncles, and families and friends of all the funny faces they make trying to get those kids to smile or even look at them. So that's almost as much fun. My neighborhood isn't quite as exciting of activity there as Tom's, but I have some good news if it comes to fruition. The Bluebird daycare center that closed up recently, from what I understand, the owner is excited about it, is it's going to reopen as a daycare center unless the wheels fall off the cart. I understand the people that have it are going to remodel, they're going to put in new playground equipment. From what I can tell, it's going to be first class. So I'm looking forward to hearing the chitter chatter of the little children one of the stories I like to share, and I don't want to say this is the correct name, but I always laughed at it. They'd holler, "Ralphie, stop it! Ralphie, I said stop it!" And I go, "Ralphie's having a good time." So that's all I have to say. Thank you very much. So moving on now to agenda for future items.
Mayor and council members, on page 165 of your agenda packet is a preliminary listing of the coming agenda items. I wanted to mention a couple of things to highlight. First off, this does not include the special meeting scheduled next Tuesday. These are just your regular meeting agenda items. So on the next regular meeting on May the 2nd, one of the major items for reporting and discussion is the final parking study update. This will be by the Goodman Corporation, so you can look forward to that study being presented and discussed, and I know we'll have a lot of interest in that. We also have the approval of Market Square improvement bids on the agenda, and we may have action related to the Municipal Utility District petition. We're still reviewing that. That may be carried over to the meeting on May 16th, but it will be coming before the council sometime in May with a report and recommendations from staff. We also have a golf cart lease proposal for new golf carts at Lady Bird Johnson. And again, a recommendation from our finance director on the establishment of a capital improvements fund in the general fund. So those are some items coming for the May the 2nd meeting. May 16th is, we'll have an update on Fort Martin Scott that will be given by Jody McGinn. And then we will have also, Clinton, I think you're going to give your water report, you and Paul Tiber at that meeting. Is that the one you'll, May 16th?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so you can look forward to that water report. And a couple other items that are noted here, but those are I think the most important items coming up. You can cross out number 4 on May the 16th, the comprehensive plan bid. That will not be ready by the end. That'll be, I'm sure, a future agenda item, maybe June or so. So that's what we got for the next, for the council meetings of May. Any questions on any of those items? Again, these are very preliminary, but that's what we have at this point in time.
Comments, council? Being none, we'll move on to item 13. Executive session. The city council recess in its open meeting and reconvene in executive session pursuant to Texas Government Code sections 551.07 personal matters and section 5510.071 consultation with attorney. A, consider and discuss the appointment, evaluation, and duties of a public officer or employee, specifically the city attorney, section 551.074, and consider and discuss the Jeanette Hormuth and Jerry Farley versus Linda Longhouse in her official capacity as presiding officer, mayor of the city of Fredericksburg, Texas, pending in the 216th District Court, 551.071. I'll entertain a motion.
I move we go out of regular into executive
I have a
session.
motion by Jerry, second by Tom. Any further discussion? There being none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 5-0. 5-minute recess, folks.
Jeez.
Discussion, there we go.
I move we go out of regular, executive session back into a regular session.
I have a motion by Jerry and a second by Tom. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, there is none. Motion carries. Tom, do you want to make a motion?
I make the motion that we appoint Councilman Kathy O'Neill and Councilman Bobby Watson to act as mediators in the case of, got to say the case?
Well, they won't be the mediators.
No, but they will be council representatives for the mediation in the Jeanette Hormuth and Jerry Farley versus Linda Langerhans in her official capacity as presiding officer, mayor of the city of Fredericksburg, Texas, pending in the 216th Judicial Court.
We have a motion by Tom. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any further discussion?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, there is none. Motion carries 5-0.
I move we adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Tom and a second by Bobby. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, there is none. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for attending, and everybody have a good evening.